All right, we're live. Welcome to the Two Brothers podcast, where you'll see and hear about retro gaming and tech. This is my co-host over here, Jeremy from Super Jeremy World, and I'm Aaron from BlusTech. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing great, since I'm the only one who can talk.
Point taken. Though, to start off, we're off to a bad start because your video is frozen. Okay, now it's not. Every time I tell you, it seems. It's fine. Okay.
Funny.
So, our topics for today are obvious. What have you played this week? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Star Wars Episode 1 PodRacer game coming to Switch and PS4. We'll talk briefly on some ROMs and some interesting things on NES and general usage of ROMs and emulators. We'll have our Interact and Chat, which is Jeremy's thing this week. And then we will talk about the AMD CPUs. And if we have time, there's one more subject. We'll see if we get there.
Cool. So, what have you been playing this week?
I have only played one game this week. We'll have our Interact and Chat, which is wow. Thank you. I have only played.
And
That was Star Trek Bridge Crew, and I played it with a couple of people from NLG. Mike from NLG, and I'm horrible with names. I'm gonna say J. I know it started with a J. I think it was Django. Maybe, I don't know.
like the bounty hunter.
No, not like the bounty hunter. But it was really fun. It was not quite as fun for me because I was not in VR. It's a VR game. You take command of a Star Trek ship, the bridge. You've got one person can be the helmsman, one can be tactical, one can be the captain, and one can be the engineer. And you do missions, and it was definitely the first first game with that type of interaction and like level of dependency. So it was just super cool. What have you been playing?
So first, Pete suggested maybe it was John or Chris or Peter.
None of the above.
I will say, Bridge Crew is one of those games that ever since it came out, I've been really jealous of it. I would love, like, it just sounds like an amazing use for VR, and I would love to like be able to do that sometime. So, and I know they have a non-VR version, like you said, but I would love to like get immersed in it and see what that's like. So this week, a couple of things I've been playing. One, I posted a video this morning of my gameplay from my video games monthly box, and so I had a couple of games that are more dead-like out of that one, Batman Forever for Super Nintendo. Which when I posted the unboxing video, everybody was like, "Oh no, not Batman Forever!" Like it's that bad. And that was pretty much my experience. I think I got stuck on screen 2. And it was pretty horrible. I played Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures for Genesis. It's a little. I wish it was like the arcade game, but it's not. It's like a little thing where you control like a slingshot and interact with the screen that way. And
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you do, you make Pac-Man mad or upset, or happy or whatever. Probably the highlight of the box was Wizards and Warriors. That was a pretty cool NES game, and Tecmo Bowl. Those were both pretty fun. But the game I played the most this week was on my Game Boy Advance with the IPS screen mod. I've been playing Final Fantasy VI, and just having a lot of fun going back through that game again. It's just such a great game and fun adventure to throw yourself back into.
Absolutely. I think I actually played a little bit of that Batman game the other day because I'm pretty sure it was one of the ones I downloaded onto the PSP for Alphonse. And yeah, I agree with your assessment. If that second screen is representative of the whole thing, then yeah, it's a bad game. Because that's exactly where I got stuck, and I was like, "Yep, nope."
Yeah, I consider myself fairly resourceful as a gamer, and especially those old ones, trying to figure out the puzzles and how to get things to move. But that one and I just did not work out. So, you guys in the chat, what have you been playing this week? Let us know in there, and we'll shout out what you've been up to also. So
Absolutely.
I'll take next topic, which was the Episode One Racer, Star Wars Episode One Racer game coming out, and that's where you get to be in the pod racing. And the reason this is exciting to me is this is one of my very favorite video games ever. It's
Ditto.
absolutely my favorite racing game, um, and really what sets it apart for me from the other games is the sense of speed. I have not played any other game that really gave me that same sense of speed, without the penalties. Of like, yes, you can crash your pod. Yes, you can screw up, but a lot of the field is pretty wide open, and so you can go very fast most of the time, without having a huge consequence or problem like a lot of racing games, especially the car games. I feel like I'm constantly getting into wrecks, and that sets me behind. And it's like a 10-second penalty in some of these games to have the car reset to the middle, things like that. And I just feel like with the PodRacer style game that they came out with, it was incredible. And I always played it on PC though. But it's been in the news this week because they're releasing it, actually as of today, I believe, on the Switch and on the PS4.
Yep.
There was a trailer dropped online. I watched the trailer for the Switch game, and it's cool because they're adding in motion controls, and then they also are making it so you can do split screen multiplayer, which I don't know if you could do on the original console games, but it wasn't part of PC, though you could do online competitions with PC. So, Pete, you mentioned the N64. I never played on N64. I just played on PC, and I was so frustrated for a long time. Similar to my Final Fantasy 7 and 8 games, they were made for Windows 98, and then about 10 years into owning the games, it became really hard to find any computer out there that could play them. And even with like their emulation mode of Windows 98, for whatever reason, those titles just wouldn't work well. And then finally, I think I can't remember if it was GOG.com or Steam that released it first, but it finally came back out a couple years ago, and so I've been able to play, and I can play on PC. But I am excited to hear reviews on the Switch and PS4 versions, because it's a fantastic game, and I'm glad that it's getting a new audience.
It is notable that if you are more of a PC gamer and you can use pretty much any controller on PC, that you can get the exact same version of the game on Steam and GOG for $9 instead of 20 through Switch. Also, there is some confusion around the game. I know some people seem to think that it got a remaster. It's a port. That being said, I still love the idea that it's getting more representation in the market today because that means that maybe we will get a remaster someday. But on your racing thing, not being a huge fan of other racing games and whatnot, I can fix that. It'll take some getting used to, but I can fix that. Switch to first person view instead of third, like on the bumper view.
Hmm.
It's a lot easier to know where you're going when you can see it before the car. Before the car gets to it.
Interesting. So, yeah, the thing with using a controller on the PC, I actually felt like the PC controls were very precise.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked being able to use the keyboard, because honestly, a lot of it is maintaining left to right, and using the arrow keys is very precise for that, going left to right. Because you have another one for speed, you know, for your accelerator, your brake, repairing. But most of the time, you're holding down the accelerator and you're just managing your left and right, and that is just very easy to do on there. I think it would be more difficult to be precise with a thumbstick, or with an analog stick. So for me, I would stick with a keyboard control if you're playing that game. Wanted to shout out Pete posted what he's played this week, playing Takeover and Double Dragon 1, 2, and 4. Pete, is that on the Evercade, or what are you playing on there? And let's see, Mike says, wouldn't that be called First Carson View instead of person?
I suppose it would be
Thank
there,
you.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Let's kick him out of the chat, please.
Yeah, you have jumped the shark, Mike. I apologize. um, yeah. Oh,
we could just add Carson to the list of
banned words. Yes. One other thing when it comes to this subject, at least for me, it is notable that back in 2018, well, actually, he started in 2017, but a single fan, took 10 months to recreate, not all of, but part of the PodRacer game in Unreal Engine 4. Um, you can discreetly find the link to that download in my Discord.
Cool.
But
So
it
is
should.
that playable or is it just video?
No, it's playable. It's a playable
Cool.
game. It's in UE4. It was a single developer, so it's a little buggy sometimes, but there's no keyboard controls. Well, I mean they are, but you can't map them and they're all messed up. So, Xbox controller is preferred. But other than that,
Okay.
yeah, it's just cool because it's what I would have liked this launch to have been. Something that was remastered in a modern engine, you know, keep the original game physics and everything, but just like update all the graphics. I think that's not too much to ask.
Mike says he is the shark.
Well, then you jumped yourself, Mike. You jumped yourself.
All right. Any other thoughts on Racer, or shall we head on?
Think we'll move on to ROMs then.
Cool. So yeah, this is we're getting the retro gaming stuff
Oh no.
all up
There we
front.
go.
So we've had a couple of recent things that I discovered. One of them was, and if you're in the chat, I couldn't remember where I talked about this, if it was on this show or another one. But they recently had John Riggs posted a video of Days of Thunder for the Nintendo original NES getting they found an unreleased version of the game that a second developer had been paid to develop, and then they ultimately went with the one that we got. But they discovered several floppy disks containing the original ROM of this game, and it's now been re-released, or for the first time released. So you can buy the cartridge. I think they did it up real nice. They put it in an original NES cartridge with great artwork and box and everything. You can buy that for like $70, or you can. They've shared the ROM for free download too. So it's really cool to be able to play that. It's a different style of racing game, since we were talking about racers. And I actually prefer the style of this one to the one that we got originally. So I'm really excited that's out.
Nice.
I also stumbled on a and I don't know how long ago this was. It seems like it was maybe last year. John Riggs had another video about a ROM for Sim City for the NES, and Sim City came out on the Super Nintendo if I remember right.
Oh.
And then later SimCity 2000 did. But they found this ROM for the NES, and and you can download and play it. And it's very playable. It's SimCity, and it's just a great little port. So it's sad that um, it didn't um, it didn't come out, for that. And I think it was late, it was late in the NES life cycle, and they just said, "Oh, scrap this. We're gonna, bring it out for the new system." So that's just kind of what the explanation behind it. So anyway, those are two recent ROMs that I heard about, and again, the SimCity one it's a little bit older news. But Aaron, what are your thoughts on that? I think it's pretty cool to like I kind of, I don't know, I enjoy like little bits of history like that. Like, hey, we got this cool thing that never was released. We get to play it now, and I just love stuff like that and hearing the story behind it. um, what are your thoughts on stuff like that?
I think it's awesome, and I think that more people need to be doing it, not just for games that weren't released, but games that have been abandoned now. Um, I think it's absolutely awesome. We need to preserve that just as much as we need to preserve any artwork from Picasso or Da Vinci. Like, it's all art. It deserves to be preserved for you know prosperity's sake. Um, so I love the idea that somebody is going out and doing that for things that haven't been released, but I think that people also need to focus on things that are released too.
Yeah, so I just popped a link in the chat if you're interested in checking out that SimCity one. Um, and that page, I didn't look into it right now, but that page has the history of it, and I think there's a link. But if there isn't a link for downloading it on there, let me know later, and I can get it to whoever messages me. And I'll during one of our as we go a little bit later today, I'll see if I can dig up the link for Days of Thunder. But that one, I think, again, I've shared previously. I just don't remember where.
Yeah, I'm pretty
So
sure that it wasn't our stream that you talked about Days of Thunder. I know you sent me and our brother something about it in Facebook Messenger, but I also do believe you were on somebody else's stream talking about it.
yeah. So as we're thinking about these basically just kind of ROMs, these two ROMs, I was thinking about like ROMs in general, because like I've shared with folks that I got this and I'll just open up, finally got a case for this thing, the my Game Boy Advance. um so I got this with the uh IPS screen upgrade, so it's got a backlit screen. It's really sweet. But the other thing I got for it is the EverDrive, so that I can, basically put whatever ROMs I want on there, and this will play everything from original NES to Sega Master System to Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games. It's got a lot of library to choose from. But then ROMs have been a controversial subject over the years. Um, and personally, I prefer to play original hardware, and I prefer to play original hardware with the original cartridge. And so, that's why I've thought about the monthly gaming boxes I get, the Retro Game Treasure and Video Games Monthly. Like, I have access to the complete libraries of the systems that I subscribe to. And so I could play all these games without paying any money. um, but most of the time I still prefer to like have that cartridge and stick it in the cartridge slot and play the game. And clearly I don't have a problem with downloading ROMs because I downloaded huge libraries of them and play them. I enjoy that. um, so I guess the question for the chat and for you, Aaron, is what are your thoughts on ROMs? Do you feel like there's a point where you wouldn't play them? Do you feel bad about it? Do you feel like it's piracy? What's your line as far as playing with ROMs that you find online?
Well, for me, I'm gonna take two routes. I'm gonna tell you the legal distinction, and then I'll tell you what I prefer to do. It is very well known that there has not been a single person sued or prosecuted for playing video game ROMs or even possessing them. The only time anybody has been prosecuted or sued is when they were selling them. That being said, you can kind of tell where I'm going with this. Um, Anything that's over 20 years old, in my opinion, is freeware. In my opinion, as long as you're not selling it to somebody else, it doesn't matter. Because chances are, unless that game's gotten a remaster or a remake or a port to a modern console like PodRacer just did, unless that has happened, then that company is not making any money on that game anyways. That being said, if they are making money on that game, then yeah, go out and buy it. Please support the developers all the way. But if no one's making any money on it, the real, not resale or used, but real brand new stock, if somebody is making real money on it, then sure, go ahead, support the developers. But if the developers and the original creators of the game are not making money on it, there's no point in buying it. 0 point.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that. I think for me, one so again, most of the time, and all my videos that I've posted have been of games that I physically own. So I try to follow that line, but then I do feel like there are some games out there that are just too expensive. To feasibly like expect everyone to go out there and buy a copy. And it's not because, like you said, this is where it's passed basically into, it's not public domain, right? Because it's still an owned entity, but the games are no longer being produced by the company. So all you have is the aftermarket. And you've got games that cost hundreds of dollars if you want to buy the original cartridge or more. And I think that's a point where for myself, I totally feel justified in saying, well, I don't have $300 to spend on one game, and B, I don't want to, but I would like to enjoy this game and talk about it with my friends and, have this experience. And so if that's being provided to me through a ROM that I can find online, I can play a game that I wouldn't be able to access otherwise. Honestly, I feel like a lot of times companies are doing themselves a disservice by not providing their old library available for download in this way. You know, if they want to have more control over ROMs and what's out there, why not sell legitimate ROMs? Go on to Nintendo.com and be able to download any ROM you want for $1. You know, I'd go through and I would absolutely pay them for their property if they were to provide something like that.
Yeah, and I bet retro enthusiasts, if say Nintendo, if Nintendo came out and said that they were going to allow download of the entire, you know, NES, SNES, and 64 library, that they would allow the entire download or the download of the entire library as ROMs from their website for $399.99, it would sell like hotcakes. Just saying.
So Max shared he agrees if there's a legal way, go the legal way, but they are not making money on it. Sometimes playing ROMs brings the game into the public consciousness and they get resurrected. And Pete says stealing is stealing, period.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, and like I said, there are a lot there's a huge spectrum of thought on that as far as what people want to do. So that's why I wanted to bring it up and just kind of see what are the thoughts that are out there. Mike says he's over 20 years old, so I guess it's fair game.
You're abandoned where, Mike?
Mike is now abandonware.
That's
Okay.
right.
Um, cool. So hey, let's move along. So the question of the day, the interact in chat. I've got it written on my phone because I didn't want to give you a preview. So I
Oh boy.
decided to surprise everybody. So our podcast is retro games and tech, and I'm the retro games guy, and he's the tech guy generally. But I decided to surprise everybody with me bringing up the tech question.
Oh boy.
So, so the question for Aaron and for everybody in the chat is, um, what is the favorite household piece of technology that you own that has improved your life? And what is a piece of household technology that you don't own that you really want, that you feel like would improve your life? And I'll start.
Okay,
Um,
that's helpful.
for me, for me, the tech that's been really great is a lot of this like smart home connected stuff. Now we're not like over the top. We don't even have like our thermostat or the door locks or anything like that. But we've added smart outlets throughout the house in strategic places. So like I've mentioned before, like we have a TV that's upstairs. The kids get to play on it. Has our like Wii and stuff on there, and so that has a smart outlet. And so 99% of the time, that outlet is just turned off, through the app on my phone. And then when it's like, hey, kids, you want to go, you earn some time, you want to go play the Wii. So we turn on the upstairs TV through our app. And when it's time for the gaming to be done, you don't have the fight and hassle with them. You just say, hey, TV's going off in 5 minutes, so find a place to save. And there's no argument. It's just off when it's time to be off. So we put outlets there. We put a smart outlet like on the Christmas tree, lamps in our rooms. It's just different things like that. So, and you can then connect it with your Echo Dots, which I know some people really don't like the idea of having, Alexa in your house and listening to you. You're being listened to anyway. If you have a smartphone, just accept it. Um,
Unless it's
so
jailbroken or
we
rooted.
we've embraced that, and so you would just kind of become second nature to ask for the weather, um ask for turn on this, turn on that. You can combine that in there into your Echo Dots. The other piece that we have connected into there is like sensors on the kids' doors, so we know when they come and go. Like we know if they're sneaking out at night, and it's not like an alarm. It just like sends us an app notification saying this kid's door's open, that kid's door's open, things like that. So that has really improved our life, just kind of having those smart outlets, and then also some of that smart technology to let us know, where kids are moving throughout the house. Because I don't know about your kids, but mine can't be trusted.
No
They would
kids can be
they would
trusted.
eat
Who are
the
you
entire
talking to?
kitchen in a night. you know. So a piece of tech that I really would like for my house. That one I'm going to think about while you answer your first one.
Okay, well, piece of tech that I think has made the house better and easier to deal with, especially in regards to children, would definitely be the Roku TV. The all-in-one pre-built Roku TV. If I've got something on my computer, I don't need to have a Plex server. I don't need to like put it on a thumb drive and take it to the TV. I can just instant stream it to the TV for my kid, and no issues. Um, everything's just quick and clean with the Roku TV. Parental settings are super easy to set up if you remember to do it. um, it's just super nice. And I don't know on things that I want. Like, I'd like to go a little bit more on the smart house side of things. But that being said, I am not a fan of any single ecosystem out there for smart devices because they all suck.
Yeah, so it's interesting. A couple of things I would like. I really would like to get a smart thermostat at some point. I don't know if it's just the dad thing. Like, I feel like I want to know what number it's set to. And when we go on trips, especially, it's like, did I turn off the air conditioning? Did I turn down the heat? Um, the other piece I would really like is to feel like I had a like a main front door lock that was digital that I felt like I could trust. And at this point, I don't have that. Um, and part of it is like you're saying that whenever you open up to a smart device, you're giving somebody else access to these things. And so it's on some level, it's like, okay, even if it's whatever company it is, you could have some employee who can get into your account and then access, unlock whatever. um and so part of me is always thinking that way. I would, but I do feel there's a lot of utility there. So like if I need to, like if I'm on a trip and I need to let my neighbor into my house, I'd way rather be able to just remotely unlock the door one time than hand them my key.
Well,
um you
and
know
there are ways to do it without companies. It's just for the average consumer, i.e., not me. For the average consumer, the amount of back end work that you have to do is staggering, which is why you won't see hardly anybody doing it who's not an IT professional, because you can set up a home automation server on a computer that's, I don't know, 15 to 20 years old just fine, because you don't need great hardware for it. And then you just go out and you buy RFID readers for the doors, and you buy, sensors for the windows, and you buy, electronic light switches and electronic outlets switches, and you have it all run through a network. And then you can remote into it via your phone through the internet. But like I said, that's a lot of back end work that most consumer level people aren't going to want to do.
yeah, it's true. So let's see. So in the chat, we had a Relic Gamer said his robotic vacuum is nice. I will attest to that.
Until it has
Um,
to go upstairs.
yeah, we have stairs. That's the only thing it can't vacuum, but it does well on both floors. They have sensors so they don't fall down the stairs. But we have children who can vacuum the stairs.
You got to build it a ramp, Jeremy.
Nah, I'm not into that. So, but yeah, we've been really big fans, especially so we have cats. Um, so we feel like it's really helpful to keep the vacuum running fairly often. Just to kind of keep the hair at bay.
It's not an
Um,
Amico relic. I don't want to buy two of them.
all right. So let's see. Did you answer the what tech you would like to have?
I basically went a similar route as what tech you've started to get, and that is, a little bit more home automation, smart home technology, for all of the same reasons. Um, but I mean, before anything else, I would say a surveillance system. That's
Okay,
just
cool.
me.
I now if I'm thinking like future like sci-fi tech, I'd like a replicator.
Wouldn't that
Because
be something?
if I have a replicator, I can make whatever else I want, right?
Exactly. Who needs any money? Just replicate it all.
Yeah. It's like I could get a lightsaber, but I could always tell the replicator to make me a lightsaber. Ooh, I just crossed the streams, didn't I?
Yep, you did. But, however, replicators are not magic, and you have to be able to define all of the elements that comprise the item that you were trying to make. They go over it multiple times in Star Trek. You have to have a blueprint, as it were, for the items, a molecular blueprint. So, If you've got one of those for a lightsaber, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Well, someday. See, that's the
Someday.
thing though, is Star Wars happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So those blueprints are out there.
Well, if time is cyclical, then so did Star Trek. Just saying.
All right. You're up. What do you got?
um, I've got the new AMD CPUs. Okay, so next month on the 7th, July 7th, AMD is releasing its new XT series CPUs. TLDR, which is too long didn't read, don't buy them because you're only going to get a 2 to 6% increase over the last generation, and that they're coming out in July, and they're brand new. Their brand new line of CPUs. This one that's coming out in July is just a refresh. Their brand new series is coming out between October and January of this year. So, and you're supposed to get a 15 to 20% increase over the current CPUs with that generation. So it makes no sense to go out and buy a AMD Ryzen 3 XT processor right now because they're going to be obsolete in less than 3 months. It's the same reason why I told people not to go out and buy the new Intel 10th gen chips, because they're going to be out of date when the new Ryzen series comes out. The new AMD Ryzen series comes out, which is AMD Ryzen 4000. I'm not actually quite sure why they're doing this mini release mid-year. I think it's just to keep market sales up between Intel's launch that they just did last month and their own big launch, so that their market share doesn't dip. So, but that's pretty much it for that short little blurb topic.
All right.
So the next one, which I didn't actually think we might actually have some extra time at the end of this one, Jeremy.
Maybe. I think our audience wouldn't hate us if we ended early.
No, they probably hate us because it's an 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time stream.
Hey, somebody's got a stream for the West Coast.
Somebody. Okay, so the next one is going to be misconceptions on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, I've been talking to a lot of people about this lately, and a lot of people are very confused. Oh, the Series X is gonna do 4K at 120 FPS, and it's also gonna have ray tracing with that 4K 120 FPS. Well, on screen right now is exactly, the lower part is exactly off of PlayStation's website, and the top part is right off of Microsoft's website. And it says for Microsoft, true 4K gaming. Okay, that's one part of it, one solitary part. And then 8K ready. 8K ready means that you will be able to stream 8K content. You will never be able to play 8K games on the Xbox One X launch edition. What will be able to be done is you will be able to upscale 4K games to 8K at maybe 15 to 30 FPS if you're lucky. But they will not actually be playing in 8K resolution, they'll just be upscaled. And then you also see over here it says up to 120 FPS. That's playback, not gameplay. Because like people seem to think that these consoles are going to be able to like shatter PC Master Race and all this, but the other misconception is you can't compare computers and consoles. Like, they're apples and oranges. And the reason I say that is, on a computer, I can run on ultra graphics settings. On a console, you're running on medium to low. So 4K 60 on a console on medium to low does not even compare to 4K 60 on a computer on ultra. And I just wanted to make sure that people get this through their heads and understand that you really have to read what they're saying on their website. Nowhere does it say 4K at 120 FPS, and you're not ever going to get 4K ray tracing at 120 FPS. So that's my little soapbox for the day.
Well, Michael Garvey says, "What's a K?"
1,000?
We've got our own. Michael's trolling you today.
He's sharking us. Remember?
He's hungry for apples and oranges now too.
Well, maybe you should go play Pac-Man.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Here's
So
game
I want to say
recommendation.
there have been a lot of videos come out in the last week or so about the Xbox Series S and
Hey,
the
Michael.
idea that they may produce this. Somebody made a mock-up. It wasn't an official thing, like a fan make of where they basically cut the Series X in half and paint it white and say it's the S, and that it would release with lower specs. It seems like that's getting more traction. That not that design, but that the Series S is going to be a real thing, and it will come out at a lower price point. So I'm just curious for the chat and for you, Aaron, what do you think that does for competition between PlayStation and Microsoft if Xbox does come out with what presumably would be an underpowered next gen system that's cheaper?
Okay, well, first off, we have to look at Microsoft's lineup as a whole. So their current lineup is the Series or the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X. Okay, that's their current lineup. What people don't realize is that the One X was a new console. Okay, it was wholly new, completely different architecture, just ran on the same operating system as the rest of the Xbox Ones. Okay, what the Xbox Lockhart is going to be is an Xbox One X refresh. It has already been confirmed by Microsoft insiders that the Lockhart is going to have at least the same amount of GPU compute power as the Xbox One X. So calling it underpowered might not be the right idea because it's going to be at least as good as the current best console on the market.
Right, but underpowered compared to the next gen systems that it's being released alongside, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely comparatively there. But if y'all think that it's going to be a $200 console, I'd like to have some of that crack you're smoking. Because it ain't. There's no way. You might be looking at $300 for Lockhart, and then probably $499 to $599 for the Series S or Series X.
But if you get the Lockhart for $300, let's say, and then you have maybe the PlayStation 5 all digital, where do you see that coming in at?
PS5 all digital?
Because the assumption is it's going to be like $100 or so cheaper than the Blu-ray version.
Well, and see that's why I put Lockhart at $300 because the only reason they're going to release the Lockhart is to combat Sony's overall cheaper price. Because Sony is going to be cheaper across the board except for Lockhart. Yeah, no, that's not happening. G&GE.
But so we're going to mention Tommy Tallarico for a minute. So part of his
that's not a good representation, Relic.
Part of his platform with their marketing strategy that he's talked about for the Amico is that they want to market to moms, because moms are the ones who spend the most money on video games,
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones out in the stores, they're the ones making that decision. So if you got a mom who's going out to do their Christmas shopping, and she's in the video game store and she sees this Xbox brand new box, right alongside the new ones, and it's $100 cheaper than the PlayStation, than the cheapest PlayStation. Does that mom buy that one over, the PlayStation 5? And I think a lot of them would,
It
because
depends on the age of the kid.
right. It's how much has the kid told the mom, and how much influence does the kid have over the mom? I can tell you, in our house, mom makes the decisions. That's the kids. The kids are not dictating to the parents. So it's an interesting, dynamic in some of those homes. But in the end, it's the parents' money, and it's going to come down to who's actually going to be there buying the thing, and all the ones who just buy a video game system not by kid demand, or kids may say, hey, I want a new video game system, and then parents go pick one. And if you're a parent and you're going out to just pick one, I think you're going to end up with a lot of sales for whatever's the cheapest on the market. So whether it's, even if it's underpowered, compared with the new generation, I think having the cheapest console on the market is going to be a winning ticket.
The Switch will still be the cheapest console in the market. The Switch Lite.
Not right now. Kurt, you tell me how much you can buy one for right now, and I'll wait.
I'll look it up. That's fine. $179.99 GameStop refurbished. $269.99 at Walmart. Those are
and
lights.
They're in stock.
Yes. Arrives
I'm
Monday,
surprised.
June 29th from Walmart.
Because I've heard a lot of folks not able to get a hold of the console and having to pay a whole lot of money to get their hands on any version of it.
Well, the stock thing's getting better now. Shipping is starting to, it's not equalizing, but it's starting to equalize over in China. So getting stuff like consoles is becoming a little bit easier than it was a month ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I just think it's really unreasonable to think that whether or not it's not going to be as good as the top tier flagship consoles, whether or not that's the case, I think it is very ignorant to believe that you're going to get a full-fledged console for $200 brand new. When was the last time, Jeremy, that you know of, that a console launched at $200?
That's a really good question.
I'm pretty
Launch
sure
price,
it's
I don't know.
never happened for a mainstream console.
Was the NES $200 new?
Let me check.
So I know in television was $299, if I remember right. I can't remember. Atari was cheaper than that, so Atari might have been $199 or cheaper. I can't remember.
The basic, okay, so yeah, so not since the Intellivision, or sorry, not the NES, because it was $89.99 with no game and $99.99 with Super Mario Bros. So not since the NES has a console launched under a certain threshold, and they're not going to do that with a brand new modern Xbox. They're not going to break the mold now. They're just going to price it just under the all digital PS5, and with enough margin to make it worth your while to buy it, but it'll be just under the PS5, And that's the only reason it's being launched, is to combat the PS5's lower price, because the Series X is a powerhouse and you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay probably $600-ish for it before taxes, before extra controllers, and before games. So you're going to pay for it compared to buying a PS5, and you'll probably be out the door, you'll probably be out the door at $600 or $700 compared to starting at $600 with the Xbox Series X.
Yeah, well, and I can attest to that with my buying an Xbox One, just the original, day one version. I was out the door for about $800, and that was the console, an extra controller, and 4 games.
Um,
That's it adds up.
It does. Relic, to answer your question, do I think Microsoft will recoup the costs through Game Pass, kind of like how cell phone companies recoup their costs on a new phone? If that was their only means of recouping cost, it would take a decade or two. Subscription services like Game Pass are not super lucrative for them. Monthly services are not super lucrative. If in a hypothetical world, if the Lockhart launched at say $300, then they're probably still taking a 20% loss on the Lockhart. So they have to make up 20% on every single console that they sell if it's a Lockhart. Now, this is just guessing, but it's a pretty prudent guess when you look at the history of Microsoft launching consoles. So if they were to need to make it up in just Game Pass, they'd have to triple the price of Game Pass to make up the money that quickly. They're going to make up their money by all digital sales. They don't have to produce media for games anymore. That's it right there. They don't have to produce, they don't have to ship. All they have to do is deal with licensing. That's it. Everything else is straight profit. So,
yeah, and that's one thing I really don't like about digital. It's another talking point that Tommy uses. Is these companies, they save all the money on production and shipping and all that, and you still get the same price tag in the end. And a lot of times, where you'll
it's
have
actually
retail
higher
stores,
sometimes.
yeah, you'll have retail stores doing sales on the disc version, but then online it's still the full $59.99 or $79.99, $100, whatever it is. And so sometimes you're paying more for that, and why? It's an incredible profit margin that they're able to get there. And I wish they would incentivize the digital purchasing by having it cheaper. Now, older titles you will get discounted. You'll get them
Sometimes.
discounted, and you'll get some free ones. They'll Xbox Live will run sales from time to time. And then they do have the games with gold, so you can get a 5-year-old game for free. But I do wish that they came out, even if it was $10 cheaper on digital, it would be something to say, hey, here's a reason to buy this. Because if you buy something physical, you've got the ability to resell it. You've got again something tangible that you can pass along, and you can recoup some of your money. But digital media, you have nothing like that. So anyway, that's my mini soapbox on digital games.
As for Relic's comment about payment plan, yeah, they already have something similar on Microsoft if you buy straight from them. But on the whole, that's not something that they really want to deal with as a company. At least I don't think it is, because it doesn't make sense for them to have to deal with that. They sell their consoles to retailers. It's the retailer's job to sell them. So there's no point in them offering a mainstream payment plan for it, in my opinion. That's not saying they won't. It's just saying that, in my opinion, it would be a dumb financial move for them because it's not guaranteed income. And when you're losing 20 to 30% of your investment when you sell a console, it's all about making as much of that 20 to 30% back as you can. And losing a console that's only a quarter paid off or half paid off because somebody stops paying you, regardless of what you do to them, what you do to their credit, whatever, um, that's still lost income. So it doesn't make any sense for them to do a payment plan in logical sense when they can just let Walmart or Rent-A-Center, upcharge 15% for the console and put them on a payment plan. Then it keeps Microsoft completely out of it, and Microsoft gets all the money that they were going to be guaranteed to begin with.
Honestly, I'd be curious. You'd have to be real careful about how you went about it as a company. But I've always felt like charge for the media. Like almost go to a model where you give away the console, right? Because if you absolutely just fire sold, uh make the new Xbox One X, um or the Xbox Series X, make it like $100, like just hypothetically, make it $100. You will clear the shelves of that. It will, it'll be the biggest one out there, and then keep the game prices the same. But that's the thing, is like, if they almost literally gave away the system, you're gonna make your money back on the software. And I felt like the same thing with, like, back in the day, like VCRs or Blu-ray players. These companies almost thought, if they were produced by you know the folks making the movies, it almost makes sense to subsidize the player so that you can sell more of the games or more of the media, right? And so that's why I feel like nobody's really done that. They want to make their money back up front largely, you know. Um, and so, but I just kind of wonder if there's a market out there for that, and if it would really work. Because in my mind, it's like, well, hey, if you literally just said, hey, we're giving these away, anybody who wants one, you've got it. And then all of a sudden families have, this much more money to spend on games for it. They would be more likely to buy more games for it, and you're going to put more out in the world than your competitors do. So yes, you've got a lot of costs to recoup, but theoretically, do you get if you get that many more consoles out there, that many more people buying the games, do you recoup it over time?
My issue with that is, okay. So let's take the Xbox One for instance. 46.9 million estimated sold. Okay, so they sold for what, 399? Yeah, 399 at launch. At least the Series X did. I don't remember what the original did. So 399 times 46.9 million units sold. And keep in mind, they're already losing 20% of their investment on every console sold. So they lost 20% by selling it at max retail price. So if you're talking about reducing that max retail price down to $100, meaning that they're going to lose probably 80 to 90% of their investment on their consoles, they'd go. It would put Sony out of business. It would put Microsoft. Well, it would put Microsoft's Xbox side business out of business. I just don't think it's practical. I'm not saying it's not something I would love to see someone experiment with, but not a console that I ever intend on buying someday.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is I wonder, does it would it make a big enough difference? So, like, Microsoft has a fairly small portion of the percentage of the market compared to Sony right now, right?
It's
And I can't
roughly
remember
half
what
of
it
what
was.
Sony's is, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the question, is, so you don't have that incentive if you're Sony, right? You're already in the driver's seat. But if you're Microsoft and you really do drop that console price enough to shift people where they were going to buy a PlayStation, and now, like, well, obviously I'm going to get an Xbox because I can't say no to that price. All of a sudden you've got more users coming over to you. Now if in theory you swap that profit out up front on the console, and you say, hey, we're really going to ship this for $200 or $100, and they steal, they reverse roles and they've got 50% more market share than PlayStation at that point. Would that be enough? Would having that many more people buying the games offset, especially if most of them are digital where they have that huge profit margin? Do you end up offsetting and getting the gain? Like that's the theory I'd like to see somebody play with. But you do kind of have to be in that underdog role to start with, I think.
Well, I don't remember where I read it, but somewhere I read that it was something like life expectancy is 9 games on a console, on the average console. 9 purchased games per console per lifetime. Um so I mean 9 times 60 times 100 million roughly. I don't think it equals out the
Okay.
loss in money. I really don't, because you're
It may
losing
not.
you're losing I think it's 6 times your net just on chopping the price of the console down to 100 or $200.
Anyway, I'd be interested in running the numbers and seeing what it would take to be viable, running that sort of plan, and see what it comes out as. But I don't want to cut it short, but I do need to get running. Um, so do you want to just wrap up with what we're doing on our channels this week?
um this week I'm actually starting a new segment with Mike, from Mike's Oasis, and I don't know if it's gonna be regular or semi-regular. I think we're thinking bi-weekly right now. So tentatively, I believe we talked about Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're still there, Mike. And it is going to be a half hour podcast type of deal about technology, and there will probably be some Star Trek thrown in there. And its name is going to be Tech Warp. And besides that, I think that's
I
all I've
still think you
got
missed.
this week.
I still think you have a missed opportunity. I told you this yourself, but I'll tell it to everybody. Mike's already on PM in the PM with Pete, and I feel like you should have done AM in the AM, um, since you're Aaron and he's Mike, and you could have done a morning show AM in the AM.
Yeah, I remembered that, but I told you I did not want to rip him off. I didn't want to rip Pete off. So
Hey, Mike is a part owner in that other show, so he's got rights.
and
Anyway,
I don't know
so
about Mike. I'm not really up for the AM thing.
hey, if you stay up late enough, it becomes AM, right? You're into that.
Not anymore. Not now.
Not now. Okay, so my channel, huge deal for those who are listening. Tomorrow night, same time as this chat, I've got Tommy Tallarico coming on to Super Jeremy World for an interview. So it'll be 11 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live with Tommy Tallarico, and so that's exciting. I will have another. I dropped a "Wouldn't That Be Something" video earlier this week. There was "What if we got the Sandlot come to the Amico," and just kind of a like Sandlot type baseball game that'd be kind of cool in addition to the regular baseball game. And then later in the week, we'll see what comes out. I'm gonna get through the Tommy interview and then go from there, because that's all my focus is there right now. So tune in tomorrow night if you're awake. If not, we will have it available for replay.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Kind of feel like we're kind of just chopping it off, but that's okay. Everybody have a great night and a great week, and subscribe to that guy over there. And if you're not subscribed to me at BlusTech, feel free to click that link.